we created a bunch of fucking self-entitled monsters. And this has become the pursuit of my life, where people are so far out of it and what they expect and what they think realistic is and what the set of rules that pertains to them versus the other guys, because that's what the bottom line is. I want my most valuable player trophy. Well, you're the slowest, fattest guy on the team. Why should he get one and I don't get one? Because he busts his ass and he runs a 4.440. That's why he gets one. It's this envy and shame, and there's going to be a lot more of it. Because it used to be, back in the day, father'd be walking his son down the sidewalk, and you'd see a guy go by in a Rolls Royce, and the father would say, "There goes Mr. Jenkins. Look up to him. That guy works hard. That guy built a company. That guy built an empire. Now look at him. He's got his Rolls Royce. He's driving up the hill." But what do we do now? Now it's like, oh, look at him. Look at him. Does he need that car? Yeah. Why does he need that car? I'm driving a Chevette. Why does he get to drive that car? You know, let's go up there and throw a rock at it. But I was doing an interview today with this chick from, like, Sacramento, and she's like, "Aren't you worried about the stigma of Glenn Beck?" And I get this a lot. Like, aren't you worried about being associated with the right? And I said, how come when Alec Baldwin announces we're good buddies and he comes on the show, nobody interviews me and goes, "Aren't you worried about being connected to the left?"
Right.
That doesn't exist. And she's like, well, and I said, the reason you're asking that is because the media is slanted toward the left, and all of you think that way. You can't help but the way you think. See, if I go, "Hey, me and Alec Baldwin are good buddies," and he calls in and we hang out, you think, cool. And if somebody says, "Hey, Glenn Beck was calling you a genius the other day," you go, ooh,
to be fair,
aren't you worried?
Let me tell you something about Adam Carolla. I don't know the guy. I know of him. I know that he is a forward thinker. He's, I think, a brilliant businessman. He's extremely funny. He is free with his opinions, thank God. And we have bets on whether he can remain clean for the remainder of this interview, or this whole interview. He is a author of a new book called Rich Man and the Poor Man, where he's showing that rich and poor are really not that different. Here with us now is Adam Carolla. Hi, Adam. How are you, sir?
Hi, Glenn. Good. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I have to tell you, I mean, I don't know if I emailed you or we got message to you about that rant about Occupy Wall Street, but it felt so good to hear somebody vocalize it like you did, and you were so absolutely spot on. And what was great about it was I can tell that you believe in the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, it's hard to yell for 20 minutes about a particular topic and not really believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird for me because I live in Hollywood and I'm a comedian, and everybody I know who's in this business is very progressive and very left-wing. And I look at myself as pretty progressive socially, but it's just fiscally, I see myself as pretty conservative, but I don't even see myself as conservative. It's just no duh on 90% of these topics. Right. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And because I feel like, Adam, I mean, you're a guy, tell me a little bit about what you do at the end of, and I don't know if you do this in all of your stage shows. I know somebody who saw you in Florida who said you take your Social Security report from the last 10 years and you show, look, I'm a schlub just like you. I'm a guy who made it myself. And I think that there's a good portion of Americans who still believe that you can make it in America. And they're lying to us and telling us that you can't. And if you do make it, you should be penalized.
Yes, and you should be punished, and, you know, this whole thing, I always sort of use Mark Cuban as an example because he's a multimillionaire who has to wear cargo shorts and flip-flops so everyone thinks he's cool. Because even if you are rich, you have to drive a Prius and wear flip-flops so nobody gives you any grief. It's a weird society that we've crafted because our entire society was based on come here, even playing field, and a chance. And not a chance to get rich because rich people are better, but a chance to live your dream. And oftentimes that means the freedom that comes with having money. And all of a sudden, we got this participation trophy group who have now come to maturity, even though I wouldn't call them, chronologically they're mature, but emotionally they're not. And they're just pointing fingers at everyone who has something that they don't and saying, why do you have this? And the answer is because I bust my butt to get it.
Right. And it's something that they don't understand. And when you express the idea that it is the trophy mentality, I mean, we've created these monsters. We've done it. And most of us have done it just because we're like, I just don't want to say anything. I don't want to cause any trouble. I don't want to be that guy. And because Americans, most of us, just want to get along. Which is like, I want to go do my job. I want to go live my dream. I want to be with my family. And I want everybody else to just shut up and leave me alone. We don't say anything. And now we have corrupted.
Well,
go ahead.
Right. Oh, I was going to say it's a lot like what's gone on with terrorism before 9/11. No one really wanted to say anything about certain things that were going on because no one wanted to be called a xenophobe or racist or God knows what. So we all kind of turned our back on a lot of stuff that was going on, and then we paid a pretty high price for it. It's sort of the same thing we're talking about here with these participation trophy little monsters that we're creating. It's interesting. I was thinking about it the other day. I played 10 years of organized football and about 7 years of organized baseball, which means I should have 17 participation trophies. I have no idea where they are. I have one tattered piece of paper that's a recruitment letter for Cal Poly Pomona calling me a blue chip prospect, and it's the most important thing I have from high school. So a box of participation trophies, right, because I earned it, because I was special, because for that one little moment, that little piece of paper says you're different than all the rest of the people that got the participation trophy.
I mean, isn't that the whole key of life is if everything is just given to you? That's the problem with socialism and communism. If it's just given to you, no matter if you try harder than the next guy or not, we all get the same. Why try? I mean, I'm wearing boxer shorts the rest of my life if that's the way it is. I'm just going to walk around eating ice cream and in my boxer shorts.
Yeah. Well, I'm not wearing pants now, but I still get what you're saying, Glenn, as a metaphor. I want to say that in my book, in 50 Years Wallaby Chicks, which you'll enjoy immensely, Glenn, I said about the time we took down the gym ropes is about the time all this stuff started happening, because it used to be every kid had to climb the gym rope, but more importantly, at least had to try.
Right.
And once in a while you would get ridiculed when the fat kid couldn't make it up the gym rope, but the solution to that is the fat kid doing some push-ups and losing some weight, not us taking the gym ropes down so we don't shame other kids.
Right.
We took down the gym ropes, but life, and especially the world, is filled with gym ropes. So we just took them down from the gym class, but they're invisible and they're up all over the place.
I have to tell you, I am so impressed with you as an entrepreneur. You're a guy who, you're very successful on radio. You're very good. There are very few people, I think, in radio that are really good. You're one of them. When Howard Stern went off the air, you were the guy. They tried a lot of things.
Thanks.
You were the guy. And when radio started dissing, you and the suits get involved and everything else, I'm riffing here. I don't know what really happened, but being in radio for 35 years, the suits get involved. Who are you to replace? Blah blah blah, and you just leave radio and you say, I'm going to just do a podcast, and now you have one of the most successful podcasts of all time. And I have to tell you, I celebrate your victory and your success of being able to say, well, I don't need you. That's okay. I don't need that. I'll just go do it myself.
Well, I'm really proud of it, and what you're doing and what I'm doing are not so dissimilar. There's a lot of the same themes in them. And I'm really happy to say that when I got fired from my radio job in '08, instead of sort of sitting back and feeling sorry for myself and collecting unemployment, I just went out and started this podcast, got a group of people together, and now we have many employees. We're building a second facility. We're buying all kinds of equipment and materials and putting money back into the economy as opposed to sitting home and waiting for a check. So it's really a little thin slice of the American dream, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be saying that we're employing people and paying taxes and buying equipment. And, you know, I got a bunch of guys at my shop right now who I'm paying who are building my new studio as we speak. So it's a good example of what you can do and how independence is a good thing.
Adam, I tell you, what was it, 7 years ago, I had 3 people that worked with me. I started my own company. We now have about 125 people. We have offices in 4 different states. We're building these enormous studios here in Texas and studios in New York. We're creating jobs. We're paying people really well. They have great benefits. In fact, we're the only ones that still in New York City carry this certain benefit package for health care. Nobody else does it because it's too expensive. I mean, it's darn near bankrupting our company, but we do it because we believe in it and we want to take care of the people who are working hard with us, who are doing it. And yet, we're the bad guys. If you're not the bad guy yet, it's only because you're living in Hollywood and you somehow or another have navigated those waters. But at some point, you're the bad guy, Adam. You're creating jobs, but
I know
you're the rich man.
Yeah, right. For paying taxes and creating jobs and
you don't pay
money
enough
back in the economy. Well, the thing, Ben, the thing I should tell you, Glenn, is I started at the bottom. My mother was on welfare. I said to her one day when I was about 9 years old, Mom, why don't you just go get a job? We're poor. What if my parents were divorced? I said, you should get a job. And she said, I can't get a job. I'll lose my welfare. And I knew at that point that it hobbled her, that the food stamps and the welfare just created a cripple out of an able-bodied woman. It took a woman whose self-esteem was already low and put it through the wagon train track. I realized...
Did you ever talk to her about
Yes.
that? Did you ever explore that with her? That's a tragic story.
It's not exactly a Bill Cosby-esque moment to share with your young child. But you know what? I realized, like, right then and there, I was just going to do for myself. And I barely graduated high school. I never went to college. I dug ditches for a living. I worked hard. I worked construction my whole life. I didn't have a taste of success until I was 31 years of age. And I lived at the poverty level, and I know what it's like to be poor as an adult for many, many years, and I know what it's like to work hard and work multiple jobs and bust your butt, too. And that's why, as a guy who wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I feel uniquely qualified to tell people to get off their ass and get to work. Because I did it, and I come from nothing, and I'm not educated, and I was warehoused at the LA County school system. Believe you me, there's no Head Start programs or advantage whatsoever. Just focused, worked hard, took my lumps, and figured out a way. And yes, now I'm the bad guy for telling other people to do that.
When you were, because like I said, I'm a busy guy. I don't even listen to radio anymore. And I know you because I follow culture somewhat. And every time I have seen you, I think you're hysterical. But I will tell you that when we put you up on the Blaze, and I think you got like 1 million clicks just maybe from the Blaze, this was one of the more popular stories we've ever done, was your rant on Occupy Wall Street. And I said on the air, I said, this guy, we probably disagree on a lot of stuff, but good for him, listen to him. I know... because I heard a clip from you later saying that people were like, hey, how can you be friends with Glenn Beck? We're not friends. But why can't people who may or may not disagree with each other on a lot, I don't know what your policy, I don't know what you think about everything. It didn't matter to me. Why can't we have a dialogue like we're having right now without you being in bed with a bad guy like me, or me selling out because your language is, why can't we have a normal conversation and come together on big things?
I'll tell you why. Because I think people are in such a hurry to put you in a box that they cannot take the time to peel your onion and realize that, there's shades of gray. Yeah, we may disagree on religion, but we may agree on border policy or raising the taxes, and we may disagree on other topics, but ultimately we're both family men and we both agree. You know, for me, I don't really care what your religion is, and I don't care who you pray to, and I don't care what color you are. You're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
You're not saying content of character. You're not saying...
I am. I'm
crazy.
just saying there's a big bicycle we're all on. You're either pedaling or you're dragging your feet. And what you do after we get home is your business. I'm interested in finding the guys who pedal and praise them, and I'm not interested in talking about what our differences are about religion. I'm interested in finding the guys that are dragging their feet and throwing them off the bicycle.
Love you, man. I have to tell you, one of the saddest things that I have seen is Penn Jillette is, you know, I would call him a friend. It's not like we're palling around with each other, but he's a diehard atheist. I wrote a blurb, or maybe even the foreword for his book, you know, that goes against God. I respect him, even though he hates religion and believes there is no God, etc., etc. But yet we're still civil to each other. And when at one point, Tommy Smothers, who was his childhood hero, said, "How could you possibly be involved and even talk to Glenn Beck? Don't you know who he is, etc., etc." And Penn had a real problem, because here's his childhood hero looking down at him because he has a relationship with me and we respect each other, even though we disagree on stuff. How can we possibly heal our country and ourselves, our families, everything?
It's very ironic that the group of people, meaning the sort of Hollywood elitist lefties, who are constantly saying you cannot judge, do nothing but judge. We can't judge any cultures for how they treat their women. We can't judge any cultures for how they treat their neighbors. But if you're friends with Glenn Beck, you get judged. Really? That's interesting.
What is the book that you put out? It's, first of all, I think it's either number 1 or number 2 at iTunes right now, right? Because it's digital.
Yes.
And it's already wildly successful. You are comparing rich and poor and saying there's really not a lot of difference there. What is your hope on this? What is your point?
My hope is to make money, Glenn. That's number one. It's not all about healing. Making a few people laugh and making a few.
Right.
Yes, it's a comedy book. The idea came to me some years ago when I was writing on Jimmy Kimmel's late night show, and I started thinking about, for instance, I thought if you have appliances outdoors, like if you have a washing machine outdoors, you're either really rich or really poor. Meaning the rich guy has it by the pool cabana for the towels and the bathrobe, and the poor guy has it on his porch with the raccoons humping inside of it.
Right.
So, and I started thinking, what else do the super rich and super poor, but not the middle class, have in common? And I thought, if you have 10 cars, Lamborghinis, Maseratis, Bentleys, you're either super rich, or if you have 10 cars and they're in El Camino up on blocks rusting out on your front lawn, you're super poor. And I just started collecting these, you know, doesn't carry a wallet. Super rich guys have the money clip with the monogram on it, and the poor guys just have the handful of singles stuffed into their pocket. But I amassed a collection of rich guy, poor guy things and combined them into this ebook.
Do you have any, is there anybody, and you don't have to name names if you don't want to, but is there anybody out there politically that you think gets it at all?
You know, for me, I hear the politicians, and I realize the politicians essentially are slaves to the people. So even though they're flying around in private jets and they have money, they have to pretend like they're champions of the poor people and the working class and all that kind of stuff. So I see the politicians as basically almost just puppets who are going to parrot back whatever it is their constituency wants. To me, I like listening to people like yourself and, you know, Dennis Miller and Dennis Prager and people like that. I find that the much more interesting opinions and ideas come from the people who aren't beholden to this audience that sort of forces them to have this opinion, even when you know they're thinking something else.
So what is the key to that? Because mine was, I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I just screwed up my life. I crashed, and I was like, wow, that didn't work. And I realized that the only thing I had was my name or my word, and nobody trusted me or anything else. And I went through. When I bottomed out, I was broke. I had nothing, and I started from scratch. And I realized all that stuff that I was trying to hold on to, and all the stuff that I was trying to be, and everything else, was all bullcrap. And so I don't care, because I know I'll be happy if I'm poor. It's easier sometimes in some ways to not be running a business and not, you know, be successful, et cetera, et cetera. It really sucks to be poor, but sometimes it's not so fun the other way. It doesn't matter. It's the same garbage whether you're rich or poor. So what is the secret? Because mine was, I just gave up caring. How do you get there without being a washed-up loser alcoholic?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I realize at a certain point, people think about me about as much as I think about them, which is not that much. And ultimately, all you have is your voice, especially when you do what we do. And if you just speak the truth as you know it, the truth as you feel it, and speak your voice, you'll get a certain amount of people who love you and a certain amount of people that hate you. But I would rather have a bunch of people that love me and a bunch of people that hate me than a bunch of people in the middle who went, he's all right. That's what I want. I mean, the worst thing anyone can say about you, I mean, back in high school, you either wanted the head cheerleader to love you or hate you.
Right.
But the worst answer would be, Glenn who? I don't think I know that name.
Adam, I wish you all the best,
Yes.
and
Thank you.
And I have a great amount of respect for what you do, and I think you are a visionary for the future of the media, and you keep going, man. Don't take any crap. Thanks a lot.
I shall. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.